Hey Beardy buddies, and welcome back to the workshop on this rainy day. Today's project, we're going to be tackling these two antique cast iron bed frames, and I'm really excited about this. They've been sitting out back behind our garage for 2 years probably. My wife got them from a friend of hers, and I'm absolutely excited. A quick story. As we were bringing my older daughter home from China, who we had actually adopted after my youngest daughter, I was able to take my younger daughter's bed and convert it was actually a crib, and convert it into two separate beds for them. But now as they're getting older and growing, they're kind of outgrowing it, and so I get to restore these two for them. So I'm a little excited about that. I'll have had a part in both of these beds that they've been able to enjoy all these years. So let's get started. I think a couple things about this. Obviously there's some paint on here that is probably lead paint, so we are going to use some paint stripper to try to get all the paint off before I do any sanding or grinding. Also, my wife does want all the wheels removed so that one is actually missing a wheel anyway, but we're not planning on wheeling these around in our house, and we don't want to scratch up the hardwood floors. So that's probably the first thing I'll do, is I'll set these up on a sawhorse to get the wheels removed, and then I'll start on the paint removal process. So let's get set up and get started. What is wrong with Weirdy Beardy? He's a sham. He's Weirdy beardless. But don't worry, this is the start of my big beard, and I have a compilation video coming for you once I'm done growing my beard, of the beard growing process. Let's see how difficult it is to remove these wheels. That was a lot easier than I was expecting. Alright, let's do this for the rest of them. This one was a little bit more stubborn, so we gotta, there we go, use the screwdriver on this one. Couldn't get it with my wrench. As I was taking the wheels off, I noticed something I thought maybe you'd be interested in. You can tell that two of these are paired up. If you just look at the thickness of the metal of the tubing, you can see two of them are thicker and two of them are thinner. So I would suspect that the thicker ones are probably older, but I just noticed that. I thought that was kind of interesting. Alright, we got all of the wheels off. Now it's time to put some paint stripper on to try to remove any of that paint on there. And it says to apply and then allow 30 minutes to do its thing. So let's apply it and see how it goes here. for that one to do its thing, I'll just go ahead and continue on with the rest of them. Alright guys, pretty much coated every piece now, and it's probably been a half hour or more. I haven't been watching, so it'll be time to tackle scraping it off the first one. But first I'll need to get set up for that. Also keep in mind this is only just one side, so we'll have to repeat this process once we're done scraping the old paint off. So let's get set up, see how it comes off. So there's definitely multiple layers here. Do a couple. Continue on with this. Well, I wish I could say that that went better than it did. It took forever, and as you can see, we still have another coat of paint on there. So I think I'm going to use like a Scotch-Brite pad and water and scrub it down. And I might have to wet sand this, because even if it's lead paint, as long as you sand it with water to keep the dust from kicking up, you should be fine. And I'll have a aspirator on as well. So right now let's scrub it up and see what that looks like. Alright, let's go rinse it off and move on to the next one. Well, here's after a rinse. One thing I did notice with just spraying the hose on it to rinse it off is this white paint was actually coming off. So what I think I'm going to do is clean up the other parts and then bring it over to my dad's, who's got a pressure washer, and that'll probably take the rest of this white paint off. We'll see how that goes. Well guys, I think it's easy to tell which ones are paired up. You can see two of them that have white, and then two that have this kind of brownish color. Now, what I actually think is that these white ones are actually steel, and the older ones, which happen to be the thicker tubing, is actually cast iron. And the same with the corresponding posts. You can see some areas on the posts that we got down to bare metal on the ones that were steel versus the cast iron. So I think the next step is going to be to go borrow my dad's pressure washer and see how well they clean up. Alright, so welcome back. So courtesy of Senior Beardy, we have borrowed his pressure washer. So we're going to see how it tackles the first layer of paint here. Let's fire it up and see how it does. as you guys are watching some of the elves and Weirdy Beardy pressure washing and wire wheeling this, I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about something that I get asked quite often. Why do you bother? Why not just buy a new set of bed frames? Why not just get a new sink? Something that I've often pondered myself, as you can see the massive amount of work that it takes to do this. And aside from the obvious with the sinks, there is sentimental value there, as those are my grandparents, so that has something to do with that. To me, there's just something kind of nostalgic about these pieces. There is craftsmanship. There's something about taking something that was probably destined for the landfill at some point, salvaging it, giving it a new purpose. Also, they don't make stuff like this anymore, so it's an interesting piece that when somebody comes to visit, they can pick these pieces out and say, that's kind of unique, that's different. Something that should last longer than my lifetime even. I was contemplating on this when my daughter asked me to super glue the head on one of her little minifigures the other day, thinking, all right, I'll fix this, but in probably a year from now it's going to be in the garbage. So if I'm going to put my time into these types of things, I like to know that I can work hard on it and I'll probably never need to touch it again, but it'll last past my lifetime. I don't think the same thing can be said about any of the items that you get new today. They just don't seem to have the same type of longevity. And so why do I do this? I want to kind of leave a legacy. I want to fix up these things that my kids can see later on, long after I'm gone, and be, my dad did this, my dad fixed this up. So those are the types of projects that I'm excited about, and I'm glad to have you guys along for the ride. Enjoy, there's plenty to do.